Breaking news today.
Please subscribe and then check notification box to get all breaking news alerts.
After years of accusing white people of inherent racism and fighting against his own fellow police officers, a black liberal cop turned his hatred toward President Donald Trump, accusing him of racist motivation. However, just after receiving an undeserved promotion, the white-hating officer's dirty little secret was discovered. In January 2016, New York Police Department officer Edwin Raymond was at the forefront of a class-action lawsuit against his department for inherent racism, claiming that the department enforced quotas on arresting minority criminals. This was one policy that didn't sit well with Raymond. It was then that the liberal left elected Raymond their darling of the anti-white, everything's racist movement. Fortunately for the well-spoken dreadlocked activist, his 15 minutes of fame didn't end there. Just months after suing the Ninth over how systematically discriminatory it is, Raymond was conveniently promoted to sergeant. Seemingly, it was almost as if the old white men holding him back from success were now responsible for his quick rise to glory. Finally, Raymond could set his sights on the newly elected President Donald Trump. Once disgraced former athlete Colin Kaepernick began his passive national anthem protests, Raymond saw his chance to denounce alleged white supremacy, gaining nothing for his community but elevating his own prominence. Before long, he rose to the head of the Black Lives Matter NFL protests, organizing the Cops for Kaepernick group and leading demonstrations to oppose his own brothers and sisters in uniform. Maligning Trump's legitimate criticism of spoiled multimillionaire sports stars comparing themselves to revered civil rights activists and abused slaves, Raymond used his newfound platform to spew vitriol against the president as well as his fellow officers. Unfortunately for Raymond, he forgot to examine his own racist actions. After gaining national praise as a poster child of the Black Lives Matter movement and slamming Trump for racism, Raymond is under investigation for racial discrimination during his short time as a night sergeant. The New York Post reports that the hypocritical sergeant who sued the night for racism and led protests against the Trump administration was caught allowing a dangerous domestic violence suspect to avoid arrest because the repeat offender is black. "Brother, we have to stop putting people like you and me in jail. Don't make me regret this," Sergeant Edwin Raymond allegedly told the suspect in quashing an arrest in Brooklyn last month, the sources said. During the ongoing internal night investigation, around half a dozen fellow officers came forward to reveal that Raymond released the convict, who has 29 arrests including assaults and grand larceny, despite the fact that he was threatening violence against his ex, who is also black. Aside from his co-workers' testimonies, the woman who was being threatened by the released suspect has alleged that Raymond deliberately allowed her abuser to walk free after she looked to him for help. "Any other sergeant would have gotten him in a week," said the woman, who asked her name not be used. "I don't understand. They let them walk the streets when I have an order of protection and he has a warrant out," she added. "Yesterday he called me and said, 'If you come outside I'm gonna bust you in your head.' He says he's going to put me in the trunk and time's up." Who wants to hear that? The woman also confessed that thanks to Raymond's impediment of justice, her dangerous ex has continued threatening her. Ironically, Raymond, who is the founder of the organization Cops for Kaepernick, recently gave an interview condemning racism within law enforcement, according to Blue Lives Matter. It was not long after that his own words would come back to haunt him as he vehemently denies his own racist police work. In a previous statement, Sergeant Raymond said, "As members of law enforcement, we can confirm that the issues he is saying exist in policing, and throughout the criminal justice system, indeed exist." On Instagram, about 2 weeks ago, Sergeant Raymond posted, "We must get rid of the draconian practices being disguised as legitimate police work." Disturbingly, Raymond is not only under the lens for the same racist mentality of which he accuses others, but he has used his vote to protect and serve without discrimination to undermine justice and impose his own bigoted agenda. However, His plan to fight racism with racism has only further harmed his own race, considering that the repeat offender he unjustly rewarded has and is continuing to inflict damage to other blacks. Raymond has such hatred in his heart toward the white majority that he feels justified invoking the same racism as those he despises the most. He has become what he fears and detests. He has abandoned the example of truly great black activists like Martin Luther King Jr. by judging individuals based on the color of their skin instead of the content of their character. Share the story and leave a comment by clicking one of the buttons below. Follow us on Facebook at Mad World News.